नन्दनं व्रजजानरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 Indai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Sai Gaur Premanande Shri Harinam Sankirtanam की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्रील प्रभुपाद की ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वशास्त्राब्धि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांतरत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैक दृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वांतोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्षाक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तु मे। मदेक बंधो मत्संगिन् मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधुतादायीन् अतिनीचोच्चतारक हाणमुंच कदाचिन्मां प्रेम्णारथ कंठयो स्फुर। श्रीमद्भागवत महापुराण की जय। Hare Krishna. So welcome all of you in today's continuation of our discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam. So today we will be seeing the 14th chapter. So if we see in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are primary 5 sections. The first one is the Uddhava Vidura Samvad, which is there almost for the first 3 chapters. And then Maitreya Vidur Samvad is rest of the third canto. So within that, the second section, meaning the first section being Uddhava Vidura, then the second section is Sarga and Visarga. That's the second section. So that goes on almost till verse 12, starting from, you can say 3.4 onwards, almost up to 12. Is Sarga and Visarga. Visarga is primarily chapter 12. Then the third section is about the Varaha Leela, so which is chapter 13 to 19. That is the major section. And primary discussion there is the events leading to appearance of Lord Varaha. So Hiranyaksha, Vadha and all that. How they were born, that is all discussed under Varaha Leela. Then Kardam Garhasthyam, Kardama's Grahastha life is the next topic, which is starting from 3.20 and goes on for 3.20 to 24. And the final is Kapila Shiksha, which is 25 to 33. So this is how the third canto is placed in terms of contents. So we are seeing now the aspect of Varaha Leela, Varaha's Leela. So that started in the last chapter, only 13, when that question was asked, what did Manu do? Swayambhuva Samrat with his wife and all, then how did they go about? What instructions did he follow? So then based on that, Brahmaji begins to describe the episode in which Manu didn't see the earth, and then that's how the discussion of Varaha comes into, Varaha Leela comes in like that. So now this 14th, 15th, 16th, this is all events leading to Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu's birth. So that is the discussion. So in context of Varaha Leela. And 16, 17, 18, in 15, 16, sorry, 17, 18, 19, they will discuss actual Varaha's killing of Hiranyaksha, that aspect. Okay, so that is how we are here in 14th chapter, pregnancy of Diti in the evening. So primary contents in this is, yes, how pregnancy of Diti occurred at an inauspicious time, and because of which Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were born. So that is the topic here in this particular chapter. So let us see this chapter now. Text 1. So what we'll do is together we will recite the verse. That will also save some time because, right, Vada and Anuvada, when I say and then you follow, in that also some time goes. And this also 51 verses in the chapter, like that. So almost all the chapters that were there in this section is like 51 verses, huge chapters. Okay, so together, text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Nishamya Kausharabhinopavarnitam Hare Katham Karana Sukaratmana Puna Saprapachataputyada Jalir Nachati Tripto Viduro Vrata.
Shukdev Goswami said, after hearing from the great sage Maitreya about the Lord's incarnation as Varaha, Vidur, who had taken a vow, begged him with folded hands to please narrate further transcendental activities of the Lord, since he did not yet feel satisfied.
Yeah. So he heard, Vidura heard from Kausharavi. Who is Kausharavi? Maitreya, right? His father's name is Kusharava, Kusharu. So he's Kausharavi. His mother's name is Mitra. So he's Maitreya. That is, so from him, hearing this Katha of Hari, meaning Varaha Lila, Karana Sukaratmanaha, that Supreme Lord who took the form of Sukar for delivering the earth. Hearing that, Vidura heard that Leela in summary fashion, he spoke in the last chapter. Punasa Prapacha Tam Udyatanjali. He again asked him to elaborate on that because Na Chati Trupto, he was not completely satisfied. He was not satiated by the Leela. He wanted to hear more. So Udyat Anjali folded his hands and he asked him to again elaborate on the pastime further, like that. So enthusiasm of Vidura in wanting to hear more further details is spoken over here. Raghavacharya says this mudra, Anjali mudra is very wonderful. He says, Hastadvayam ekikritya udhrataha Anjali. He says, Anjali parama mudra kshipram deva prasadini. He says this is a mudra which is very, Deva Prasadini, Kshipram Deva Prasadini. It actually very immediately inspires the senior, inspires the deity to offer, mercy, to offer grace, benediction. So he says that this is known as Parama Mudra, meaning to get the mercy, to get the blessings, this mudra of Anjali mudra, Deva Prasadini. It's very, it quickly bestows the mercy and benediction on the subordinate. Okay, so Vidura wanted to hear more. So his enthusiasm is spoken. Chati tripto, na chati tripto. He was not satisfied. Vidura uvach, okay, continues. Let's continue. Vidura uvacha, तेनैव तु मुनि श्रेष्ठ हरिणा यज्ञमूर्तिना आदिदैत्यो हिरण्याक्षो हत इत्यनुशुश्रुमा. Yes.
Sri Vidura said, O chief amongst the great sages, I have heard by disciplic succession that Hiranyaksha, the original demon, was slain by the same form of sacrifices the personality of Godhead, Lord bore.
तेनैव तु मुनि श्रेष्ठ हिरण्याक्षोपि हतः. उनके ही द्वारा हिरण्याक्ष भी मारा गया. किनके द्वारा? केनैव, one who lifted the earth, by him only Hiranyaksha was also killed. That is what I have heard. And he also spoke, right? Maitreya himself also said in the last chapter, Jagana, he said, he killed him. He killed the demon Hiranyaksha. So that same boar killed him. He is saying, I have heard in that fashion, like that. Meaning he is the same Supreme Lord, although appearing in two different manvantars. Two different forms of the Lord, but same Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the point. Prabhupada says in purport, so we have discussed this. The boar incarnation was manifested in 2 millenniums, Swayambhu Chakshusha. In both millenniums, there was a boar incarnation of Lord. But in Swayambhu millennium, he lifted the earth from within the water of universe. Whereas in Chakshusha, he killed the first demon Hiranyaksha. In the Swayambhu millennium, he assumed the color white, and in the Chakshusha millennium, he assumed the color red. Okay, so Prabhupada is saying in purport there. Vidura had already heard about one of them and he proposed to hear about the other. Okay. Next verse. Tasya chodharatah kshaonim swadamshtragrena lilaya daityarajasya cha brahman kasmadheto rabhun mridhah.
What was the reason, O Brahmana, for the fight between the demon king and Lord Boar while Lord was lifting the earth as his pastime?
Kshaonim uddharatah, when he was lifting the earth, kasmadheto abhut mridhah. किस हेतु से युद्ध हुआ? कस्मात हेतु भूत मृदा. मृदा means fight or युद्ध. Please tell. He is asking. Text 4. श्रद्धानाय भक्ताय ब्रूहीत जन्म विस्तरम ऋषेण तृप्यति मनः परम कौतुलम हि मे.
My mind has become very inquisitive, and therefore I am not satisfied with hearing the narration of the Lord's appearance. Please, therefore, speak more and more to a devotee who is faithful.
Yeah. The Janma Vistaram. Please speak in a detailed manner. Please narrate with all the details. You have spoken something, but that is summary in some few verses. Now please speak in with Vistar. Natripyati manaha. Again he is saying that my mind is not satisfied. I want to hear more. Param kautulam hime. Prabhupada says in purport, one who is actually faithful and inquisitive is qualified to hear the transcendental pastimes of the appearance and disappearance of Supreme Personality of God. Vidura was a suitable candidate to receive such transcendental messages. Next verse. Maitreya uvacha sadhu vira tvaya prishtam avatar katham harehe yatvam pritchasi martyanam mrityupasha vishatanim.
The great sage Maitreya said, O warrior, the inquiry made by you is just befitting a devotee because it concerns the incarnation of the personality of Godhead. He is the source of liberation from the chain of birth and death for all those who are otherwise destined to die.
Yeah. Yes. So Maitreya answered. So in these two verses, 5th and 6th, he is congratulating the question of Vidura. Sadhu Veera Tvaya Prishtam. Hey Veer, warrior Vidura. Tvaya Sadhu Prishtam. What you have asked is a very sublime inquiry, very wonderful. Sadhu. Avatar Katham Harehe, because what you have asked will cause the description of Lord's appearance. Varahadev. Martyana Mrityupasha Vishatanim. And that Katha is actually Mrityupasha Vishatani. Katha is qualified by that adjective, Mrityupasha Vishatani. This Katha is so wonderful that it liberates one from this clutches of death. Vishatani means that which does mochanam. Vishatayati, mochayati, which frees one from the Mrityupasha. So very wonderful question you have asked, because this answer to this will have Lord's Katha, which is Mrityupasha, Vishatani. Vamshidhar says that although the question about, he asked about Kasmad Hetoha Bhut Mridhaha, because of what reason the fight occurred, fight. So although he has asked a question about fight, which is not considered very auspicious, people have also ideas about, if you have a picture at home of Kurukshetra war, Krishna instructing, then there will be a lot of fights. They say like that. So point is, this is transcendental fight. If you put that picture, soon all the fights will be over. In the sense, if one is inspired to hear about the message of Bhagavad Gita, then all that kalaha will go away instead of kalaha coming in. So Vamshidhar says that although by Laukik standard, the question about fight is not considered very auspicious, but this one is very sadhu. This one is very wonderful, because we are not asking some battle of Waterloo or Panipat. We are asking about battle of, this Varaha and Hiranyaksha, right? So it is concerning about the appearance of water, of appearance of Lord Varaha. So it is sadhu, this way, like that. So Vishwanath Chakravarti also says this, that your question will bring in the description of Lord Varaha and also Lord Nrsimha. And by their glory, by their description, everybody will be blessed and freed from the clutches of death. Mrityu Pasha Vishadanim. So it's a wonderful question that you have asked. Prabhupada says in purport, the great sage Maitreya addressed Vidura as a warrior, Veera, not only because Vidura belonged to the Kuru family, but because he was anxious to hear about the chivalrous activities of the Lord in his incarnations of Varaha and Nrsimha. That is also the sense in Veera. You relish Veerata, but of whose Veerata? Of Lord. Not some ordinary warrior's Veerata. No, he relishes the chivalry of Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says further, third line, a devotee has no taste for hearing anything mundane. There are many topics of mundane warfare, but a devotee is not inclined to hear them. The topics of the warfare in which the Lord engages do not concern the war of death, but the war against the chain of Maya, which obliges one to accept repeated birth and death. Upasha Vishadanim, he's commenting on that. In other words, one who takes delight in hearing the war topics of the Lord is relieved from the chains of birth and death. He's also reminding us of battle of Kurukshetra. Prabhupada in purport, he's saying that how in battle of Kurukshetra, anyone who hears about this great battle and the message of Gita, such person is able to conquer life and death. Not only that, even those who participated in that battle, he is saying that they achieved their original spiritual existences. Yam niriksha hata gata swarupam vijaya ratha kutumbe attatotre dhrita haya rashmini. That verse is quoting. So anybody who was dying and they saw Krishna, Yam Niriksha, they saw that Supreme Lord while dying. Hata Gata Swarupam. Such persons also achieved liberation. So such is the wonderful glory of this topic. So you have asked a wonderful question. This happens in Bhagavatam often. The questions are also glorified because questions themselves are wonderful. Varyanesha Yesha De Prashna. All that. Yes. Okay, one more verse glorifying his question. Text 6. Yayottan pada putro murina gita yarbhakah mrutyoho kritveva murdhyangrim aruroha hare padam.
By hearing these topics from the sage Narada, the son of King Uttanpad, Dhruva, was enlightened regarding the personality of Godhead, and he ascended to the abode of the Lord, placing his feet over the head of death.
Hearing about this Supreme Lord only, hearing his glories only, Uttanpadaha putro, Uttanpat ke putra, Uttanpada ke putra. Munina, this is Narad Muni, hearing the Lord's glories from him only, this Dhruva Maharaj, what he did, Aruroha Harehe Padam, he achieved the abode of the Supreme Lord. But Mrutyoho Kritva Murdhyangrim, but he made the stepping stone of Mrityu. He climbed on the head of Mrityu and ascended to the abode of the Lord. Mrityu Pasha Vishatanim. He is explaining that with a drishtanta. Who is like that? Dhruva was like that. When Dhruva was ascending to the spiritual world, when the Vimana came with Nanda and Sunanda, personified Mrityu also appeared there. And he was waiting that Dhruva will now quit the body. So he's waiting like that. So, but then what Dhruva did, when he was sitting there for taking Dhruva's body, Dhruva climbed on his head and went to the spiritual abode. Meaning, it means that he conquered the death. He conquered the death, and that way he achieved the Supreme Lord's abode. That way. So he's quoting that incident, how Dhruva was able to conquer the life, the birth and death because of hearing Lord's glories from Narad Muni. So such is the power, like that. Okay, text 7. अथात्रापीतिहासोऽयं श्रुतो मे वर्णितः पुरा ब्रह्मणा देवदेवेन देवानामनुपृच्छताम्.
This history of the fight between the Lord as a boar and the demon Hiranyaksha was heard by me in a year long ago, as it was described by the foremost of the demigods, Brahma, when he was questioned by the other demigods.
Yes. So atha, atha is for Mangalya, Mangalya. So he is beginning the katha. So it begins with atha, Mangal Suchak. Athatrapi itihasoyam. So where did I hear this? Maitreya is telling. Where did I hear this itihasa? Ayam itihasa shrutaha me. By me this itihas was heard pura, in way back in prior time. When Brahmana Deva Devena Devana Manuprichata, when Brahma, he explained this particular story to some devatas, demigods, when they had asked to Brahma. So that is the time I also heard, and that is what I am recounting to you. That is what I am speaking to you. So this is how he begins. Where Raghavacharya says he is telling about the parampara in which he heard. He is not quoting on his own, from his own mind. He is saying, I also heard it from Brahma. It's in parampara, like that, right? So proper authority should be quoted. That is how Shastra, somebody who speaks on Shastra should speak. Not some haywire stuff here, there, like that, but quoting from the right authorities. So that is how ideally all of us should be speaking also. So he continues. Text 8. Ditirdakshayaning kshattam maricham kashyapam patim apatyakama chakame sandhyayam rachayardhita.
Diti, daughter of Daksha, being afflicted with sex desire, begged her husband Kashyapa, the son of Marichi, to have intercourse with her in the evening in order to beget a child.
Yeah, so the story begins with Diti, Chakshusha Manvantar story, this is, and it begins with the daughter of Daksha. Out of 60 daughters of Daksha, Diti was one. 17 daughters were offered to Kashyapa Muni, and 27 were offered to Soma, and the rest, that is 6, were offered to 3 different sages, 2 to each, like Angira and all. So Diti was in this with Daksha's daughter, and her husband was Kashyapa, who was son of Marichi, Maricha. Marich is son of Marichi. So on one particular day, she approached her husband Chakame, with a desire in her heart. She approached her husband, but the time was Sandhyayam, time was Sandhyakala, which is not the auspicious time for any activity for that matter, but especially such an activity like procreation. So, but because she was tormented with a desire for union with her husband, so she approached him at such a forbidden time, which is the Sandhya Kala. Text 9. Ishtvagni jivvam payasa purusham yajusham patim nimlochatyarka sinam agnyagare samahitam.
The sun was setting, and the sage was sitting in trance after offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, whose tongue is the sacrificial fire.
Yeah. So she approached her husband when Nimlochatyarka Arke Nimlochati. She appeared when she approached when there was Sandhya Kala. After Sandhya Kala means after the sun sets, 1 muhurta after that, 48 minutes, 2 ghatikas. That is the time when she approached Kashyapa. And that is considered an auspicious time. That is presided by Rudra. You also know it as Pradosh time. So especially time from, suppose if you take 6 o'clock as sunset, so 6 to 6:48, that time is considered to be presided by Rudra and his associates. So it is not considered auspicious time for um, eating or sleeping or for, act like procreation like that. So that is how it was inappropriate time. And that is when she approached. That too, when her husband was sitting in Agnyagare, he was sitting in the Yajnashala. He just after his Agnihotra, he was meditating on Supreme Lord. He had completed offering his oblations in the sacrifice to Lord Yajneshwara Vishnu, Ishtva Agni Jivvam Payasa. That Supreme Lord is said to be Agni Jivva, jinki Jivva hai Agni, meaning Yajna, Lord Yajna, Lord Vishnu, who has fire as his tongue. So he offered all the oblations to him and he finished that. And then he was meditating on Supreme Lord in that position. Samahitam, he was meditating on Supreme Lord. And at such an inappropriate time, she approached him. So this is the reason actually. She approached when her husband was in the sacrificial arena, Agnyagare, and that too when he was meditating, that too when he was in trance, Samahitam, that too in the Sandhya Kala, in the time which was inauspicious. So by all this, there was dosh in her approaching. Although that is a natural desire of a wife to beget a child, but this was the problem, that it was not appropriate time and appropriate occasion. Desh Kal Patra is fine, but Desh and Kal was, not correct. So this is the problem. Okay. So Prabhupada comments on fire is considered tongue of the personality of Godhead. Ditiruvacha, text 10. Ditiruvacha, yeshamam tvatkrite vidvan kama atta sharasanaha dunoti dinam vikramya rambhamiva matangajah.
In that place, the beautiful deity expressed her desire. O learned one, Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly, as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree.
Yeah. So she approached her husband, saying that I am very much tormented by the desire to have union. And just like a mad elephant is attacking a banana tree, similarly, Cupid has attacked me, Dunoti. He is putting me in a great distress. So please, you fulfill this desire of mine. Later in the series of verses, Diti would be said as Kripana Bahubhashinim. Kripana and Bahubhashini. Kripana matlab one who was distressed, one who was feeling very poor and distressed. And Bahubhashini is one who is too much talkative. So this verse 10 and 11 talk about her being Kripana. And the next 4 verses talk about her being Bahubhashini, too much talkative, trying to appreciate and flatter husband like that. So this is talking about the Kripana aspect. So she is feeling very much distressed in that way. Okay, text 11. Tad bhavan dahyamanayam sapatninam samriddhibhi prajapatinam bhadrante maya yungtam anugraham.
Therefore, you should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives.
Yeah.
By performing this act, you will become happy.
Right. So the point of this verse is Diti's other co-wives, 16 of them, they had the issue, they had the child, but Diti was not having any child. So she says that Dahyamanayam sapatninam samriddhibhi. So all of them are with child, but I am without child, so I am burning. I am so much distressed because of that. As your legitimate wife, I should also have a child. So that's why Maya Yungtam Anugraham. You please bestow this favor upon me, like that, she says. So the point was, she was not only just Kamatura, but she was also Putrarthini. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that. She was not only just distressed by lust, but she was also desiring a child, which is like legitimate desire for a wife this way. So that's why she approached her husband and wanted that he satisfy her with this desire. Prabhupada also says this in purport. In Diti's appeal to her husband for sex, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by sex desires, but she desired sons. Since she had no sons, she felt poorer than her co-wives. That karpanya, kripanata, kripana bahubhashi. She was feeling very much distressed, very much forlorn, not having any children. Therefore, Kashyapa was supposed to satisfy his bona fide wife. So that was the point. Now her aspect of bahubhashini is spoken in next verses. Text 12. Bhartaryapto rumananam lokana vishate yashah patir bhavad vidho yasam prajaya nanujayate.
A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for the expansion of living entities.
Yeah. Bhartaryapto urumananam. Those wives which are beloveds of their husbands, their fame spreads very much. In the sense, by having a good progeny, their fame also spreads. Patir bhavad vidho yasam prajaya nanujayate. In fact, your glory will be spread by the progeny that we have. In turn, your glory will be spread. Of course, the glory really spreads later because of having a progeny at a long time. But then, yeah, that principle, yes, that by the issue, by the children, the glory of the parents, especially of the father, is very much spread all over. Patir bhavad vidho yasam prajaya nanujayate. Or it can also mean that a son is reborn again. The husband is reborn again in the matter of a son. In fact, that's the meaning of Jaya. What is the meaning of Jaya? Tad Jaya Jaya bhavati yad asyam jayate punaha. Jaya is that personality in whom the husband is reborn as the son. Meaning the son is considered the representative of husband, isn't it? He is considered amsha of that husband. So जाया मीन्स अस्याम जायते पुनः, इसमें पुनः जीवित हो जाता है, इसमें मतलब उस स्त्री में, in the form of her son. This is Aitareya Brahman, one of the scriptures, Brahman scriptures, like that. The wife becomes a wife when the husband is born again in her as the son, like that. That's why she is known as Jaya, Jayate Puna, that way. So point is, by procreation, the glory of a husband like you will be all the more spread. So that is what his point. Prabhupada in purport says, according to Rishabh Deva, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth. And so that's the responsibility of a father and mother. Pidana sasyat, jananina sasyat, guruna sasyat. He says that there. So that is the actual responsibility for begetting children. Text 13. Pura pitano bhagavan daksho duhitri vatsalah kam vrinita varam vatsa ityaprichatna prathak.
In days long ago, our father, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us separately whom we would prefer to select as our husband.
Yes. Prabhupada in purport. It appears from this verse that free selection of a husband was allowed by the father, but not by free association. Free selection is fine, swayamvara, but not by free association. The daughter can express, and then finally, the daughters were asked separately to submit their selection of a husband who was famous for his acts and personality. The ultimate selection depended on the choice of the father. So at no point that free mixing kind of thing was allowed. That is religious, adharmic. But a daughter was allowed to choose the husband. And if it is approved by her father and elders, then it would happen, like in Diti's case. Text 14. सविदित्वात्मजानां नो भावं संतान भावना त्रयोदशा ददात्तासां यास्ते शीलमनुव्रताः.
One well-wishing father, Daksha, after knowing our intentions, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you. And since then, we have all been faithful.
Yeah. So in this way, although they didn't express very clearly out of the genuine shyness of a woman, but then Daksha understood, Naha bhavam viditva. Daksha understood our bhava. She is saying, Diti is saying. Santana bhavana, because he was well-wisher of his daughters naturally. So he understood that whom they want as their husband. So 13 of them he gave. 13 he also gave later, 4 also. 13 of them he gave to you, Kashyapa. Yaste Sheelam Anuvrata. And we have been extremely faithful to you. Yaste Sheelam Anuvrata. We have always followed your Sheela. We have been very faithful to you, following, executing all the desires that you want us, to do. We have very much been faithful to you, like that. Text 15. Athame kuru kalyanam kamam kamala lochana artopasarpanam bhuman amogham hi mahiyasi.
O lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his pleas should never go in vain.
Yeah, so that is why. Please fulfill this desire of mine. Please, yes, kamam, kalyanam, kuru. Whatever is my abhilasha, you please fulfill. Kamala lochana, or lotus-eyed one. She is saying to Kashyapa. Artopasarpanam bhuman amogham hi mahiyasi. कोई आर्थ व्यक्ति जो होता है उसका महान व्यक्ति के पास जाना व्यर्थ नहीं होता है, अमोघ नहीं होता है. महीयसी आर्तोपसर्पणम अमोघम ही. If somebody approaches a great soul like yourself, artha person like me, so it should not go waste. Amogham hi mahiyasi, like that. Srinath Chakravarti Thakur says, if Kashyapa Muni were to say, oh, you just said Yaste Sheelam Anuvrata, right? That we have been following and executing your instructions very much. So what kind of Sheelam you are showing that you are approaching me when I am sitting in Samadhi, that too on the Sayankal time, and you are trying to break my Samadhi. See, basically he was sitting in Samadhi, so she spoke loudly. There was no question. His eyes were closed, and also how was she able to attract his attention was that she spoke loudly all these words. So he's saying that mat samashila, ye kaisa aapka samashilta hai? You are trying to break my samadhi, and that too, for your own pleasure, like that. So in answer to that, Diti is saying artopasarpanam, what to do, because I am distressed by this desire. So you should fulfill this desire that way. Text 16. Ititam veera marichaha kripanam bahubhashinim pratyaha anunayan vacha pravruddhananga kashmalam.
O hero, Vidur, Diti being thus afflicted by the contamination of lust, and therefore poor and talkative, was pacified by the son of Marichi in suitable words.
Yeah. So in this way, she approached. So those Krupanam Bahubhashinim, those words are, we talked about it. Her talks showed these qualities in her. So when Kashyapa heard these words, his samadhi was already broken, and he spoke to her with pacifying words. That Diti, whose lust, who was more and more tormented by the Cupid, so he spoke to her these words, like that. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that here Vidura is addressed as Veera by Maitreya, Veera. So he says that Maitreya means to say, यथा भवद विधा धर्मवीर, जैसे आप धर्मवीर हो, आप तो इस ऐसी स्थिति में टस से मस नहीं होंगे, लेकिन तथा न कश्यप, but Kashyapa is not like that, so Kashyapa was moved in this situation. So you are Veera because you can control the senses, like that. But in case of Kashyapa, tatha na, he says, he is not like that. like you, meaning Kashyap is also great soul, no doubt. But how Vidura is a pure devotee, and that's why perfectly in control of his mind and senses. So, but that is not the case with Kashyapa in this case. And that's why he spoke only Anunayan. He spoke only with pacifying words. What he should have done is actually, he should have not spoken Anunayan. He should have spoken with Sakop Kataksham Tarjan. Tarjan karna chahiye tha wahan par. With the very angry eyes that what nonsense is this? You should not do such a thing. This is inappropriate. यदि कृत्रिमम अपि कोपम अदर्शयत कृत्रिमम अपि कोपम अदर्शिष्यत, अगर वो आर्टिफिशियल भी एंगर दिखा देते थे उधर, देन ऑल्सो तस्याह काम पीड़ा भी अंतरअधास्य एव. He says that her affliction for the lust would have disappeared, even if you would have just angrily chastised her with artificial anger, he says. But he spoke only with a anunayan, pacifying, oh, no, 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 like that, in this way. So he says that's why he's addressing, Maitreya is addressing Vidura as Veera. Prabhupada is also addressing this idea. See, second line. Kashyapa was engaged in his spiritual activities, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife, who was thus afflicted. He could have refused her with strong words expressing impossibility, but he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura. Directly, Vishwanath Chakravarti, as it is Prabhupada. Vidura is addressed here as hero because no one is stronger in self-control than a devotee of the Lord. It appears that Kashyap was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife, and because he was not a strong man as much as Vidura, he tried to dissuade her with only pacifying words and didn't do tarjanam, didn't chastise her. And this is the point. So that is how Veera, that is the quality of a great soul. Maharaja, that's why a sannyasi is also known as Maharaj, or for that matter, anyone, Goswami, whether he's Grahastha or sannyasi, is also known as Maharaj. Why? Because, yes, one who conquers his mind and senses, he is a real Maharaj. At his feet, other Maharajas also fall. Like that. The worldly Maharajas fall at the feet of the real Maharaj. So, Veera, in this way. But then these words were no avail because she was Prabruddhananga Kashmalam. She just became more and more tormented with lust, like that. Text 17. Eshateham vidhasyami priyam bhiru yatichhasi tasyaha kamam nakah kuryat siddhit straivargiki yataha.
O afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you. For who else but you is the source of the three perfections of liberations?
Yeah, so he does some bharya prashansa. He does some glorification of wife and grahasthashram. That is there now in the coming verses. So Sridhar Swami says, Sandhya kal vanchanaya bharya prashansa. This all bharya prashansa is happening so that the sayankal goes, it's away, it's past, He doesn't want to do such a forbidden action in sayankal, I mean, so that's why Sandhyakal Vanchanaya, Sandhyakal Chala Jaye, iske liye he is speaking all these verses that way. He will fulfill her desire, that is fine, but he didn't want that such an action happens in Sandhyakala. Vishwanath Chakravarti also says, Kashyapasya Bahu Vak Vilas Rachda. Kashyap ka ye jo Bahu Vak Vilas Rachna hai na, Vak Vilas, all these words, Sayankal Yapanartham eva. Very simple, right? Sayankal chala jaye, iske liye hi tha, iti jneyam. So this should be understood like that. So he said these things. So I will fulfill your desires. Eshateham vidhasyami. O Bhiru, because you are very dear to me. You have this timid nature. Bhiru bhayashile. Who in this world, which husband is there who will not, fulfill the desire of his wife, who offers him three perfections? Siddhi Traivargiki Yataha. She offers him three perfections, meaning Dharma Artha Kama. Moksha is not included, like that. For moksha, Guru is needed, like that. Of course, she assists him in all these activities, but a Stree is said to be offering three siddhis, which is dharma, artha, kama, like that. So that's why Traivargiki Siddhi, it is said like that. Dharma, artha, kama, rupa. So in Prabhupada, in purport, he says, this is third line. Conditional material existence is based on sense gratification. And if someone has the good fortune to get a good wife, he is helped by the wife in all respects. So the wife helps him in executing dharma, also in artha, in kama, in all these aspects like that. But then the point is that, yes, the husband also has to be spiritually enlightened and also under spiritual instructions of spiritual master, Vaishnavas. Then the whole thing also moves to the aspect of moksha. Otherwise, it will be trapped only within the three this way. So husband has to be progressive in spiritual advancement. Prabhupada says that. It is essential, therefore, that girls as well as boys be trained to discharge spiritual duties, so that at the time of cooperation, both will be benefited. The training of the boy is brahmacharya and the training of the girl is chastity. A faithful wife and spiritually trained brahmachari are a good combination for advancement of the human mission. So in this way, he speaks about. So his glorification of Grihasthashram is there, especially from the aspect of wife being such a wonderful partner to execute dharma, artha, kama, and all these aspects. So he's doing that in these verses. Text 18. Sarvashramanupādāya svashramena kalatravan vyasanarnavamatyeti jalayanair yatharnavam.
As one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife.
Yeah. So the situation in material world is very terrible, with mind and senses always wreaking havoc to inspire one to go for sinful life. In such a situation, Vyasanarana, what is that Vyasana? That Vyasan is falling prey to some irreligious life. So in that, for a Grahastha, his wife is like, in that situation is like in which one is able to cross over this ocean of danger with a nice sea-going vessel, Prabhupada says, like a ship, he is able to. Sarvashraman upadaya, and that too helping all other ashramas. Sarvashraman upadaya. So he helps all other ashramas. Upadaya means, Sridhar Swami says, Annadi danena krichatah tarayan. The Grihastha, he works, he gets the resources and he maintains the other three orders. He's supposed to maintain the other three orders. So because of which, so in this way, offering the food, the resources and everything, he maintains the other three ashramas also by his ashram. Swashramena sarvashraman upadaya. अपने आश्रम से अन्य आश्रमों को भी तारते हुए वो खुद भी तर जाता है. Like that he is glorifying. Vyasanarnavamatyeti. He crosses over the ocean of this material existence. Especially he's talking about the dangerous senses and the mind. He doesn't fall to them in a very terrible way. So Prabhupada in purport says this, third line. This Vedic Varnashram system is generally known as the caste system. The man who lives with a wife has a great responsibility in maintaining the members of other spiritual orders. So that is Sarvashraman Upadaya, that way. Wow, brahmacharis, vanaprastha, sannyasis. Except for the grahasthas or the householders, everyone is supposed to engage in the spiritual advancement of life. And therefore the brahmachari, the vanaprastha and sannyasi have very little time to earn a livelihood. Like that. Of course, grahasthas are also supposed to engage in spiritual advancement, but he's talking about the aspect of that earning money and resources and keeping sanchaya. That is not expected in other three ashramas. They therefore collect alms from the grahasthas, and thus they secure the bare necessities of life and cultivate spiritual understanding. By helping the other three sections of society cultivate spiritual values, the householder also makes advancement in spiritual life. So he himself also makes spiritual advancement and also helps other ashramas. So it is a wonderful situation like that. He is glorifying in this way. Text 19. Yamahuratmano hyardham shreyaskamasya manini yasyam swadhura madhyasya pumanscharati vijvaraha.
O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of the man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife.
Yeah, so this wife is said to be Atmanaha Ardham, the better half of a man. Shreyas Kamasya, somebody who wants welfare is going towards the, achieving the ultimate goal of life. So for him, the wife is said to be the better half. Yasyam Swadhuram Adhyasya, जिसमें जिम्मेदारी डाल के पुमांश चरति विज्वरः, the man can move about, freely without anxiety, with his duties, with his the other aspects of earning the resources, money, and all that. So she acts as somebody who helps him in his responsibilities by taking care of the house and all that. That is Swadhuram. Drashta drashta karma bharam. Chidar Swami says, meaning she takes care of the house, she takes care of the children, she takes care of their nourishment, keeping the house clean, maintaining the things and all that. So that way, she is able to give good support to her husband. And that way husband can focus on his duties. So that's why this is a situation he is saying. Prabhupada says in purport, a family man has a responsibility to perform 5 kinds of sacrifices called Panchayajna, in order to get relief from the reactions to all kinds of unavoidable sinful activities performed in course of his affairs. Panchayajna are mentioned, right? Deva Yajna, Pitra Yajna, all that. Ahut, Prahut, and such. Manu describes this, 5 kinds of yajnas like that, which are there in Grihastha. So she helps him with this serving all these personalities like Brahmanas, Devatas, Athithis, and all of them this way. So that is why he is saying that one is able to receive such a great support. Prabhupada says in purport, in the material world, there is no question of love. And this is towards the end. Marriage is actually a duty performed in mutual cooperation as directed in the authoritative scriptures for spiritual advancement, right? So marriage is it's an institution of, duty, responsibility. It's not just based on some physical attraction or like that. Prabhupada says just one line before that, when a husband and wife aim at spiritual advancement by mutual cooperation, there is no consideration of personal beauty or the disruption of so-called love. This way. So that if one is keeping the focus on spiritual advancement between the couple, the divine couple, that is put into the focus, then the couple can stay with a lot of mutual cooperation like that. So that is the point. He is glorified. So the aspect of Grihastha is glorified. Actually, Shastra says that one should derive inspiration from the statements of Shastra glorifying that particular ashram. If one is a brahmachari, one should see the statements of Shastra which glorify the brahmachari ashram, the exclusive shelter that is there in this life of brahmachari ashram. And if one is a grihastha, then he takes inspiration from those statements which are there for grihastha ashram. It is not to discredit the statement of other ashram. No. So point is that once one decides an ashram, then it is said that one derives the inspiration from the glorification of that particular ashram's statement. So here, that's why he is glorifying grihastha ashram, and it is an inspiration for those who are in the grihastha ashram. That is how it should be taken. So one may respect the nobility of the another ashram, but the inspiration one should take from the statements pertaining to his own ashram. If we take too much inspiration from the glorification of another ashram, then one may also end up into another ashram like that. Of course, here we are absolutely not saying that one ashram is inferior and one is superior. But the point here is, if one wants to stay as a brahmachari, then one has to also cherish the value of brahmacharya and that opportunity which is there, like that way. Similarly, if one is a responsible grahastha, then he should cherish that opportunity of grahastha that is there. If he is all the time giving abuses and bad words to that grahastha ashram, most likely that it would be a very terrible situation there, like that. So although the inspiration for grahastha is also vanaprastha ashram, surely, but then it is not premature. When one is in that ashram, then one should also see that wonderful opportunity that is there and work on utilizing that opportunity rather than all the time condemning. Oh, this is bogus, this is maya, this is patan, this, that, this way, that way. So that is how here we see that he is also appreciating this, like that. Finally, any ashram that one accepts, one also strives to maintain that enthusiasm to go on, that way. So the statements of Shastra which glorify those aspects, one also takes them with great delight, because one wants to move on with that, like that. But finally, these both are bona fide ashramas, and whoever is chosen that particular ashram can move ahead with that inspiration. So that is the perspective which is seen here. Text 20. Yamashrityendra indriyaratin durjayan nitarashramai vayam jayema helabhi dasyun durgapatir yatha.
As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers, by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in the other social orders.
Yes. So in this way, he says that Yamashritya Indriya Ratin, these senses are like great enemies. And especially in other ashramas, there is no opportunity, there is no provision for engaging the senses in sensual activities. So he says by taking shelter of a wife, one is saved from falling prey to the senses in some ghastly manner, in some irreligious manner, like that. Indriya Ratin, Indriyas ko Arati bola hai, meaning they are like enemies. Durjayan itarashramai, for other ashramas, they have to conquer these senses without engaging them, without getting into those activities. So very difficult to conquer. But if one has a wife, then one has a legitimate provision for engaging the senses. So that's why Vayam Jayema Hela Bhi, he says that we grahasthas are able to conquer these enemies called as senses, Hela Bhi, Leelaya, very easily. Dasyun Durgapati Yatha, just as a commander of the fort, he is able to conquer all the Dasyun, meaning all the robbers, plunderers, he is able to conquer. So wife is considered to be that Durgapati. She is like the commander of the fort, because of which one is not smashed by the plunderers. So the point is that in other ashramas, that risk is always there, that one doesn't fall prey to the irreligious engagement of the senses. So one has to be very alert and one has to be very strict in that, so that he doesn't fall prey to it. If that happens, that act of a religious kind of engagement of senses, then one with, one gets very severe consequences of that, like that. So same way, even within Grahastha ashram, it has its sets of rules and regulations. So they also, the Grahastha also has to follow those sets and sets of rules and regulations. And if he doesn't follow, then he also won't be able to make swift advancement, like that. So there is royal road, and there is a road with a lot of traffic. So on a royal road, accident may happen, but on a traffic road, you may not move only. You are so much stuck up that you just are not able to move further. So both the aspects are there. One should be careful on royal road, going very fast. And similarly, on a slow road, there is not so much of an accident chance, but one should be careful that yes, he is moving, not that he's stuck up, and not that he's going back, like that. So both the ashramas have their aspects, and they should be seen, and one should be careful, should know how to progress in both of them. So that is the point. But yes, for those who are not able to take up that, who have a psychophysical nature which needs for them to be with society and with a wife and practice execute Krishna consciousness peacefully. That is how they should take. That is the ashram that is perfect for them. And for those who are able to take up, they have a psychophysical nature which allows them to take up a life of complete exclusive shelter of Supreme Lord, and one can stay without a wife. So then that's also wonderful. Then he can move ahead. So Prabhupada also in Gajendra section says this element, you find the natural element. The crocodile and the Gajendra, right? So crocodile on land is a problem. She is weak. And Gajendra in water is weak. So that's how. Very nice, Prabhupada says that. So one may change the element, Prabhupada says, but the war must go on. Prabhupada says that. One may change the element if one misunderstands his element or whatever because of a number of factors. If he has to change the element, land to water, water to land, but the war must go on. Very nice line he has written that way, that we all want to become, pure, conquer these sinful urges of mind and senses and achieve loving attraction for Radha Krishna's lotus feet. So that is the point. So he's saying that glory of Grihastha ashram is there, that they are in that way a safe position because the wife is there, so that one is not drifting here, there, and ending up in some sinful sense gratification like that. So Prabhupada also talks about this aspect in his purport. Prabhupada says, this is middle portion of the purport. Without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee of the first order and is a nuisance in society, unless he is a trained brahmachari, vanaprastha or sannyasi. So if there is no fixed wife, then neither brahmachari nor grihastha, brahmastra, whatever they say that. So there's a big risk then there. He may become a debauchee and become a nuisance. Unless there is rigid and systematic training of the brahmachari by the expert spiritual master, and unless the student is obedient, it is sure that the so-called brahmachari will fall prey to the attack of sex. Very important. Rigid and systematic training, Prabhupada is saying, by expert spiritual master. And unless the student is obedient, there is obedience from the student side and there is expert training from the spiritual master's side. If that expert training is missing, there will be a problem with peaceful practice of brahmacharya. And if the student is disobedient, surely there will be a problem with practice of brahmacharya. Of course, disobedience, this doesn't mean that there is no space for engaging our psychophysical natures in Krishna consciousness. There is obviously space for that. There is always room for clarification and all that. So that is not considered disobedience. Being independently thoughtful with a discussion, that is not considered to be being whimsical or disobedient. No. Disobedient is where one is just not able to accept the discipline and the training that which is offered, and on every issue there is a different opinion. One is not able to go along well with any aspect of the training which is there and all. So in such cases, then we see that people end up in changing their situation like that. So that is the point. So Prabhupada is saying this is very important thing, that one is in a proper bona fide ashram, whether it is brahmacharya ashram or grihastha or vanaprastha or sannyasi, but he is situated in a proper bona fide ashram like that. So just two more verses and we'll stop. Text 21. Navayam prabhavastam tvam anukartum griheshwari apyayushava kartsnena yechanne gunagridhnavah.
O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done, even if we worked for our entire life or even after death. Repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities.
Yeah, so he is saying, so that's why त्वाम अनुकर्तुम, आपके उपकार को चुकाने में न वयम प्रभवः, we don't have any strength to do anukar to you. What you have done to us, to repay that, we don't have any power, he is saying. This little exaggerated glorification. That is the opinion of Vishwanath Chakravarti and also of Prabhupada. Apyayushava karsnena ye channe gunagradhnava. Even if whole life, by one lifetime, or even by the next life, we will not be able to repay your debt. What to speak of ye channe gunagradhnava. Even if somebody is extremely fine in finding out the qualities, gunagradhnava, meaning one who is very expert at finding out the qualities of his wife, such a person also will not be able to repay. What to speak of us, he's saying, like that. So, ye channe gunagradhnava, that way. So, Prabhupada says, so much glorification of a woman by her husband indicates that he is henpecked or is talking lightly in joke. Kashyapa meant that householders living with wives enjoy the heavenly blessings of sense enjoyment and at the same time have no fear of going down to hell. Like that. So he's glorifying that aspect. So Prabhupada talks about how if man in renounced order of life, if he goes to, he is driven by sex desire and engages in such forbidden act, then such a person will fall to a hellish destination. It's very deadly in that case. So in that way, the householders on the side of safety, Prabhupada is saying. Therefore, husbands as a class cannot repay their debt to women either in this life or the next. Because they're protecting them in this life, serving them, and they're also helping them not fall to some terrible destination post-life, post-mortem, meaning after their death. So they're protecting them in this life, they are also protecting them in the next life. So that's why he's saying, by this life or by next life, we can't repay this way. Prabhupada says finally, not all husbands are able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives, but even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, gunagradhnavaha, it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. Such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mood of joking. He says that. So that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says that point. Okay, one more verse. Athapi kamam me tamte prajatye karavanyalam yathamam nati rochanti muhurtam pratipalaya.
Even though it is not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your sex desire immediately for the sake of begetting children. But you must wait for only a few seconds so that others may not reproach me.
Yeah. So your desire is for getting a son. Karavani alam. I should do it. I should fulfill it. But yathamam nati rochanti. I should fulfill it in a way that I am not condemned and criticized by others. Meaning the output of that, the progeny of that will be so ghastly that people will know that, oh, Kashyapa has surely transgressed, and that way he will be condemned, criticized. So I don't, I'm not subject to such a, so this kind of retortion by others. So please, muhurtam pratipalaya. So please wait for this muhurta to get over. Prabhupada translates as wait only for a few seconds. But that means actually 48 minutes at least. Muhurtam pratipalaya. One muhurt is 2 ghatikas, 24. So that is 48 minutes, like that. So he told that this Sayam Muhurta, Pradosh Muhurta, that is what you should be stopping, and we shouldn't engage in this act in this way, like that. Okay. So we'll pause here and continue after. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Are there any questions?
Yes, Prabhu. This Swayamvar, it seems like it was there for all or what? This is Brahmin case, so
Yeah.
it was unofficial, and for Kshatriya girls, it is official. Is it like that for Vaishya and
Yes, it is like that.
Vaishya also?
See,
And
only
Shudra?
Swayamvar, any daughter was allowed to choose her husband, provided everything else matches. But there was different, for Kshatriya daughter, there was Virya Shulka, meaning they have to do such a thing like that. Similarly, there are different rules. For a Brahmana, that Virya Shulka would be different in terms of his learning and all that. And same way for Vaishya. But any daughter was able to choose. That is like common thing. Mahabharata also speaks about it. Yes.
And here he's speaking so nicely so that the time passes by. But it seems like it did not happen. So
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, so it didn't happen. That's what. Like, she was so much urged by that desire that although he talks now further, Lord Shiva is wandering and all that, she cuts him short and pulls him, like that. So she doesn't allow him to even, for that matter, speak it, continue also. And then, as Vishwan Chakravarti Thakur is also pointing out, that he was already also in with the desire. Only thing is, yeah, he at least understood the forbidden time thing. But then because of Diti's force, that also didn't happen like that. So later, that's why he says also that actually because of you, this has happened. He says, you are reckless, like that he says. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, just like we heard these two different names for Maitreya Muni, Kausharavi and Maitreya. So similarly, this word kshatta is coming for Vidura quite many times. So what is exactly the meaning of that?
Actually, meaning is similar only. Kshatri is the pratipadikam that becomes kshatta. And the meaning is one who saves others from the injury, like kshatriya. That's the same meaning. So the word is kshatta actually, and that becomes kshattaha and all that in Sambodhan. So Vamshidhar gives this meaning in third canto's beginning. And it's same, kshati se jo tarta hai wo kshatta, like that. He gives the meaning. Yes, anything else?
So is Dhruva placing the feet over the head of death is symbolic or what is?
No, in commentary there it is actual, not just figurative. Mrityu indeed appeared. So there Acharyas have commented that he personified there Mrityu, and he came and Dhruva indeed climbed him. He sat down and then Dhruva on his murdhni, on his head, he climbed and went to the Vimana, like that. So it is to demonstrate a certain point, but that is it has happened. Commentaries have said that point. It is factual.
It is for what purpose? I mean, what was demonstrated with it?
It was demonstrated that actually this great devotees like Dhruva Maharaj, so their body is itself transcendental. They don't have to even die. His body, he didn't give up the body. He left no body, Dhruva. His body became transcendental. And with that transcendental body, he ascended to the Dhruva Loka. So there, the Acharyas have commented saying that this is to demonstrate the aspect that devotees don't die. They don't even die. Meaning the devotees, they conquer the death and they ascend to the Lord's abode. The personality of death doesn't come to catch them, it cannot, the personality, he cannot influence them. That is the purpose. But does that happen for everyone? हम लोग बोलते सदेह वैकुंठ गमन. So that doesn't happen for everyone. For others, it is videha mukti, meaning you give up the deha and then you get the transcendental body to go to the spiritual world. So that is called as videha mukti. But for these people, it is like in the self-same body they are going. So it is kind of Jivan Mukta, but not in the exact sense. Jivan Mukta is somebody who is still there in the material world. Videha Mukta is one who has left the material world and has gone to the spiritual world. But these people in the same body, transcendental body, they have achieved it. Like Dhruva, or we hear about Tukaram Maharaj. He is also like that. So the principle demonstrated there is this only, that devotees don't have death. They conquer death and they ascend to the. He raises that objection also in Tika, saying, do devotees not die? Are the Vaishnavas, are they not countered by death? And then he says, no, this to show this it is spoken. Mrityu pasha vishadanim here also. So that is the purpose, Prabhu.
Is this personality of death different from Yamaraj?
He is different from Yamaraj. He is expansion of Yamaraj. He is an amsha of Yamaraj. He is different. He is not Yamaraj. Dhruva will not step on Yamaraj. Right? Yeah, Mahajan. Yes, Mahajan. Like that. So this is different person, Prabhu. Yes. Yeah, he is a Devata. Yeah. Okay.
Just like in the same lines, yesterday we heard that when Varaha entered the Garbhodak, the ocean cried out that. So was it also symbolic or actually it was?
Exactly, that's what I answered right now. That was his question, right? I'm saying it is not symbolic. It is a fact. That same thing, right? Dhruva's.
Varaha entered the Garbhodak and the ocean cried out.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about this Dhruva's episode. Yeah. The ocean crying out, right? There, Acharyas have said Utpreksha, means it didn't happen. The poet is describing like that. So that is called as Utpreksha. In that case, the actual thing is not there, not happening like that, but the Acharya is understanding and his poet putting into that poetic rendition in that fashion. Of course, Garbhodak ocean or all these oceans are also personalities, but there it is said Utprekshate. So that is Utpreksha only, like that. So clear. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, this seventh verse, Maitreya Muni heard this from Brahmaji. So we see that disciplic line is mentioned a few chapters before, that he has heard from Parashar Muni. So is it like, I mean, he is never counted in Brahma Sampradaya because he has heard from Brahmaji also, like that. So is it like how to understand this? These are like, they have been hearing from all the acharyas like this, or they get opportunities like.
Yeah, actually Maitreya hears from so many people. Maitreya, so he's also heard from Brahma this particular episode. Maitreya, in Mahabharata, Maitreya's life is in little more in detail. So Maitreya hears from so many people. He has heard from Brahma. He has heard, as you said, also from Parashar. He has heard from Vyas. He has heard from Narad. He hears from many people. But he is not counted in Brahma Sampradaya. I mean, the list that we have is primary acharyas who are there in that, right? It's not an exhaustive list. With a principle, we can always say that, yes, Maitreya also, because he has heard from Brahma, so he's quoting his parampara. So in a way, he is obviously in Sampradaya, that way. But yeah, especially for somebody like Maitreya, he has heard from many people. So the point there, acharyas say that his quoting that I have heard it from Brahma is just to tell that what is the source of information, the bona fide parampara in which he has heard, he's telling that. That's the purpose. He is giving praman for where from he has heard. That is the purpose. Right? Okay.
One more thing, just a question from little previous things. The 10 sons of Brahma were created. So then that Pulaha, Pulasthya and Kratu. So is there some information about this in Bhagavatam later? Because not heard much about it.
Of course, these names are there. They come further also. If you are talking about their particular progenies and all, maybe in 6th canto, we should see that initial section where you talk about all these personalities, how they populated and all that. Nothing comes to my mind immediately, how Pulatsya or Kritu, where the pastime comes, but they must be there, we can search.
Hare Krishna. We were talking about the ashramas here. So, and either the brahmachari or the grahasa, any of the ashramas, somebody can actually fit into it. But nowadays, the people are talking about more about not a brahmachari inside the ashramas, not a properly grahastha. So, what is the insight of that? Means like what, how we can, if somebody comes and says that whether it is all right, like whether we can continue our life like this. So, what is the shastric view about this?
Shastra says, anashrami eko dinopi na bhavet. One should not be anashrami even for a day. One day also. That's the Shastra quote. I think this is Yajnavalkya. He says that. I can find out that reference is famous. Anashrami, one should not be anashrami even for a day. Your brahmacharya, it's over. Next day you become grahastha. Like that. That is how Shastra speaks. So now the pertaining to the complexity of Kali Yuga, in which everything becomes complex, so this idea of somebody not accepting brahmacharya ashram or grahastha ashram also, and then there is big justification for that also. So that is something which should be talked about, discussed about, and individual cases could be seen. Probably there is some genuineness in them and some valid reasons. But if, just as you ask Shastric perspective, this is the Shastric perspective. It says very clearly that not even one day, anashrami.
Generally, we talk from the brahmachari, like the brahmachari side, like the brahmachari, either he can be in ashram or he can be in grahastha ashram. But there are some cases like the people are asking us that now we are the divorced, and then whether we can remarry. So what has to be like the answer from the Shastra point of view?
Actually, here in these cases where divorces and such things are there, the guidance becomes little complex only because divorce itself thing is not there. So what caused the thing, that is only Shastra is not speaking on it. So the solution of that is further complex, like that, isn't it? That way. So then in such cases, that's how the other principles, at least the spiritual masters, have been guiding based on other principles, like they are looking at that individual, his psychophysical nature and his nature. Does it fit him to be situated in that kind of ashram? Some things are learned by hearing and some things by experience and terrible experience. Some things are learned only after going through very hard way. So then spiritual masters may not want again him to, get into that kind of idea, that kind of situation. So I would really say that this would be like something which is really subjective and individual. Do you speak about, Shastra, Shastra's talking about divorce itself is not there. So that's why for a woman to get remarried, that is out of question. That is just not there, even in Shastras.
Certain reasons it's allowed. We see in Mahabharata when Kunti had like 3 children from 3 demigods. He says now even Shastras don't allow more than 3. So for certain reasons, it is allowed. It's because I did some
But that
research.
is
I'm
not
not able to exactly
remarrying, no?
quote.
But that is not remarrying, no?
No, it's allowed for even to remarry 3 times. Is mentioned.
If there is Praman, surely I can accept. No problem.
I'm not able to exactly find out from Manusmriti somewhere.
it's
For
fine.
certain, only a few reasons. Very early age, if husband has taken sannyas, some reasons are mentioned why woman can remarry.
Maybe, if at least in my reading, I haven't come across. In fact, there are pramanas where a woman for remarriage, what happens is when her husband dies or like that, she just goes back to her parents, and parents have to take care of her throughout her life. It's like that. But remarriage thing, if there is praman, surely then I accept. No problem. Yes.
Hare Krishna. It's just like you
A lot
quoted,
of talk about ashram. Yes.
like how to understand that like Bhishma Mahajan, he's considered a brahmachari, and but he lived in a royal thing.
But
And same way Hanuman is also a brahmachari, but he fought war. So how to understand these things?
Bhishma's is very clearly considered to be very highly exceptional case. Bhishma is, I mean, even Mahabharata forbids one from even imitating him in that fashion. There is a quote of Mahabharata where it says that this is only Devvrat can do. तो बाकी लोग ऐसा व्रत मत लीजिए. One will be smashed completely that way. And Hanuman is a prototype of brahmachari. He is classic brahmachari, surely. Now what Seva brahmachari does is, it's different thing, right? He may do a number of services. So his Seva is, fighting and all that in that particular manner like that. But he is a great brahmachari. Is inspiration for brahmacharis that way. So he is, in his case, very special by Lord's, service which is directly assigned by the Lord, and in that manner, so it is there that way. So that's the point.
Hanuman is living in Gurukul,
Oh,
or
wow.
they are dealing with. So what explanation does the Shastra give for them calling one side brahmachari, but at the same time engage in political things under the king, not under the guru?
That's what I'm saying. Hanumanji and all, these will be really exceptional cases because see, he is, he's Amsha of Rudra, and he is not some ordinary personality. He's considered non-different than Shiva. So for him, he's been in Lord's Leela, he's been awarded with such a service and he's rendered in that fashion. But as a brahmachari, whether he should be engaged in some army, in fighting for somebody or like that, so in that case, you will have to see the instruction for brahmacharis. So that is not an instruction for brahmacharis to stay in that particular fashion, where you are working under some king or like that, and in that manner fighting a war or something like that. This is not a general scenario of brahmachari. But these examples, again, they will be considered as very exceptional, specific. These are actually driven in Lord's Leela, by Lord's Leela Shakti. They are not there to set up a standard of ideal brahmachari life, how one should show the ashram and all that. It is more from, he's showing that Leela aspect, he or even Bhishma Dev and all that. But how brahmachari should lead, then you read the rules of brahmacharya for 7th canto, Narad Muni. He's explaining everything, or Manu is explaining. So that is how we see. I think we should move on now. Okay, so now he tries to forbid Diti by telling her that how this time was very much forbidden and we should not engage in the act of procreation here. So that is spoken in next 6-7 verses, 23 onwards. Together, text 23. Esha ghoratama vela ghoranam ghora darshana charanti yasyam bhutani bhuteshanu charaniha.
This particular time is most inauspicious because at this time the horrible looking ghosts and constant companions of the Lord of the ghosts are visible.
Yeah. So this is a very terrible time. Vela. ये बहुत घोर बेला है. Ved, even in Marathi. Same. So Vela, this is a very fierce, horrible time, this Muhurta, in which we see that Lord Rudra is roaming. He is wandering along with his associates, hosts, ghosts and hobgoblins, pishachas, bhutas, pretas. Why does he wander? He wanders to deliver other bhutas, pretas and pishachas, to have them join their group. So that's why now it's not a good time in front of Lord Shiva and his associate to engage in such an activity like that. Of course, somebody like Lord Shiva, he is witnessing everything at every moment. But this is because it is a muhurta which belongs to him. So in that, if you do, it is clearly means it's like a visible violation of the sanctity of that particular muhurta, or the appropriateness of that particular muhurta. So the different muhurtas of the day, they are predominated by different personalities. And then that's how one should make sure that one doesn't do those forbidden activities and displease that particular personality that way. So that this is why he says that charanti yasyam bhutani bhuteshanu charani. Here in this time, all these bhutas and pretas, they are wandering along with Lord Shiva, bhuteshanu charani. So that's why ghora darshana, this is not a very good time, like that. One will see these horrible creatures like bhutas and pretas in this way. Okay, text 24. Etasyam sadhvi sandhyayam bhagavan bhuta bhavana parito bhuta parshadbhi vrashayana tati bhutarat.
Lord Shiva, the king of the ghosts, sitting on the back of his bull carrier, travels at this time, accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare.
Yeah. So in this Sandhya Kala, hey Sadhvi, you should act like a Sadhvi. So he's calling her as Sadhvi. So Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavana, Lord Shiva, he surrounded by Paritah Bhuta Parshad bhi, unke Bhut Parshadon se Parit hoke, he atati, he travels everywhere. Bhutarat, he's the king of the ghosts. So that's why in this time, if we engage in this activity, Lord Shiva will be extremely displeased. So Prabhupada says in purport, second line, Mayavadi philosophers are mostly worshippers of Lord Shiva. And Sripad Shankaracharya is considered to be an incarnation of Lord Shiva for preaching godlessness to the Mayavadi philosophers. Ghosts are bereft of a physical body because of their grievously sinful acts, such as suicide. The last resort of the ghostly characters in human society is to take shelter of suicide, either material or spiritual. Material suicide causes loss of physical body, and spiritual suicide causes loss of the individual identity. So Prabhupada is saying, I mean, those who are associates of Lord Shiva, whether they are ghosts or hobgoblins, or they are impersonalists, meaning the Mayavadis, they both of them are the ones who have committed suicide. Yeah, so suicide leads to one becoming a ghost, whether spiritual ghost or material ghost. That is how he is bringing up that point. Going to impersonal spiritual jyoti, kaivalyam narakayate. It is like hellish, it is like spiritual suicide, he is saying. And then Lord Shiva, being very kind to the ghosts, sees that they get physical bodies despite being condemned. So Lord Shiva's merciful nature towards the ghosts is spoken, bhutarat, bhutesha, in this way. So typically this is how followers of Lord Shiva, Prabhupada brings up that comparison, that how they are the ones who have committed suicide. So he speaks about Lord Shiva and his glory in these further verses. Actually, so this Diti feels that you are so powerful, so how does it matter even if we engage in such an activity? Because you are very powerful. So he's telling, no, I am very powerful, but Lord Shiva is much more powerful. So don't try to flatter me. Behave like a Sadachari Sadhvi Stri, like that. So that's why he's glorifying Lord Shiva, that he's a very powerful personality and he's object of my worship and respect, and we shouldn't offend him. Text 25. Smashana chakra niladhuli dhumra vikirna vidyota jata kalapa bhasmavaguntha malarukma deho devastribhi pashyati devaraste.
Lord Shiva's body is reddish and he is unstained, but he is covered by with ashes. His hair is dusty from the whirlwind dust of the burning crematorium. He is the younger brother of your husband, and he sees with his 3 eyes.
Yeah. So he's talking about Lord Shiva's Rupa. He has chata and kalapa, his hairs, his chatas, they are smeared with the dust of the graveyard, the dust of the crematorium, smshan. So he's bedecked with that. So that's why usually golden form of Lord Shiva becomes little reddish. Prabhupada writes reddish like that. So he's covered with the ashes. He's covered with that dust from the smashana, like that. Bhasmava guntha mala rukma deho. So his rukma deha, his body has become, that's why reddish because of this bhasma that he puts all over his body. Devas tribhi pashyati. But you should know that he sees with three eyes. Nothing is hidden of him. He has three eyes with which he sees. He has eyes, not only two eyes, but also one eye on his forehead by which he sees. And he is your Devara. Aapke Devara hai wo. Devaraste. Like that. He is your brother-in-law. Lord Shiva is son of Brahma, Rudra. And this person is, Rudra, he also received the daughter of Daksha Prajapati, right? Sati was daughter of Daksha. And Lord Shiva received her as his wife. So then Kashyap has received Diti, who is also born from Daksha. And his other daughter, which is Sati, is received by Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva becomes brother of Kashyapa. And that's how he is Deva of Diti, right? But of course, that happened in Swayambhu Manvantar. Okay. But he is remembering that because Sati only was born later as Parvati. So Sati, Daksha had 16 daughters in the Swayambhu Manvantar. The youngest was Sati, and she was married to Shiva, Rudra, Shiva. And then all that pastime happened. She was, she felt that her husband was disrespected, so she burnt herself. And then she reappeared as Himalaya's daughter, which is Parvati. And she was married to Lord Shiva. So that is how he is connecting Devaraste in this fashion. So he is the younger brother of your husband in that way, because Sati is considered to be the youngest daughter in that sense, literally. From another angle, if you see, he is Brahmaji's son, Lord Shiva. And Kashyapa is Lord Brahma's son's son. Lord Brahma's son is Marichi, and Marichi's son is Kashyapa. So from that angle, it is like uncle relationship between them. But he is speaking from that aspect of Daksha being the father of Sati as well as Diti. So from that angle. And he sees with three eyes. So what can be hidden from him? So he will surely punish the souls who do vikarma. That's why we shouldn't do such an act. He is saying that. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that such a vikarma would be seen by Lord Shiva, and he would punish us for that. So we should not do such an activity that way. So Prabhupada says in purport that three eyes of Lord Shiva are sun, moon, and fire, Agni. So this is spoken in terms of Lord Shiva's Aikya, Lord Shiva's oneness with Gunavatar, Vishnu. So just as typically Vishnu is typically said to be having sun and moon as the eyes, but Lord Shiva is glorified in that way because he is Gunavatar. And in that sense, he is not different from Vishnu. So from that angle, he is being glorified in that way. Prabhupada says, Kashyapa took Shiva as his younger brother because the younger sister of Diti, Kashyapa's wife, was married to Lord Shiva. But of course, it is from different manvantaras, but still, that is the point. The husband of one sister is considered one's brother. So by that social relationship, Lord Shiva happened to be the younger brother of Kashyapa. The husband of one sister is considered one's brother-in-law. That's what he means. Like that, by that social relationship, Lord Shiva happened to be younger brother of Kashyapa. Finally, the forbidden time for sexual intercourse would be noted by Lord Shiva, and Diti would meet with proper punishment by giving birth to a child of ghostly character or godless impersonalist. Prabhupada says, or she will give birth to a child of godless impersonalist. Mayavadi janam kya aayega? Kashyapa foresaw this, and thus he warned his wife, Diti. So Prabhupada doesn't leave a single opportunity to smash the Mayavad aspect. Okay, text 26. न यस्य लोके स्वजनः परो वा नात्यादृतो नोत कश्चिद् विगर्ह्यः वयं व्रतेर्यच्चरणापविद्धाम् आशास्महे जाम्बत भुक्तभोगाम्.
Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as very favorable or abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his footstuff and we vow to accept what is rejected by him.
Yeah. So if Diti were to say, okay, fine, Shiva is very powerful, he is always seeing, but you just said that he is Devara and he is like your brother, so he will forgive whatever you do, no problem, right? Shiva should forgive you for whatever you have done. You are his relative and you are also very learned. He knows you are a great personality, like that. In answer to that, he is saying this verse. Na yasya loke swajana parova. Are unka koi swajan para nahi hai. Lord Shiva is samashil. He is equal to everybody. Natyadrito nota kaschit vigarya. Nobody is very dear to him. Atyadrita. Or nobody is extremely vigarya. It's not that he hates somebody and he loves somebody very much. No. Vayam vrate yat charanapa vidham ashasmai. And in fact, we perform austerities, we do our vratas and our worship and all that just to get some, remnants of food stuff which are there taken, accepted by Lord Shiva. Meaning he's glorifying Lord Shiva as the master of this world and everything is owned by him. So whatever we desire in our grahastha ashram and anything, that is actually Lord Shiva's remnants, meaning it is all belonging to Lord Shiva. And then he's Bata Bhukta Bhogam, and he's giving us, by his mercy, we are getting something. So he's glorifying Lord Shiva in that particular fashion, like that. येना चरणेना अपविद्धाम निर्माल्यवत दूरे तक्ताम. जैसे कोई निर्माल्य छोड़ देता है, वैसे इस जगत का सब कुछ भगवान शिव के नेतृत्व, भगवान शिव के अधीनत्व में है. So we actually only are accepting his remnants, like that he is saying. So that is why, how can we displease such a personality? We cannot displease this person. Whole world is his power, his vibhuti, and we are accepting this vibhuti. Let it be knowledge, let it be wife or home or whatever in this world. This is all by Lord Shiva's grace, this way. So that's why we should not offend this personality in this way. He is extremely elevated and we just accept remnants rejected by him. So this is the point. Prabhupada says in purport, Kashyapa informed his wife that just because Lord Shiva happened to be his brother-in-law, that should not encourage her in her offense towards him. She was saying, no, he will forgive, no problem. Kashyapa wanted her that actually Lord Shiva is not connected with anyone, nor is anyone his enemy, since he is one of the controllers, all that, like that. Prabhupada later, after 2 lines, remnants of foodstuffs offered to Lord Krishna are called prasad. But when the same prasad is eaten by a great devotee like Lord Shiva, it is called Mahaprasad. Lord Shiva is so great that he does not care for material prosperity, for which every one of us is so eager. Parvati, who is the powerful material nature personified, is under his full control as his wife. Yet he does not use her even to build a residential house. That's the meaning of Girish. Girau shete iti Girish. जो कहाँ पे सोते हैं? गिरी में, मतलब वो पहाड़ पे सो जाते हैं. He doesn't even build a house like that. That's the meaning of Girish, that way. Or Girehe Ishapi, but one meaning is also given by Vamshadhar like this. He does not even build a house. He is just happy in that Kailas. Of course, it's a very opulent place, but primarily for the sake of Parvati and his associates. He himself is extremely detached. He prefers to remain without shelter, and his great wife also agrees to live with him humbly. So that is the glory of Bhavani and Bhava. People in general worship goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity, but Lord Shiva engages her in his service without material desire. He simply advises his great wife that of all kinds of worship, the worship of Vishnu is the highest. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param. And greater than is the worship of a great devotee or anything in relation with Vishnu. Tasmat parataram devi Padiyanam Samarchanam. So that is the glory of Lord Shiva. Actually, his whole appearance and all that, he will talk about it also. Why he then has such an appearance? Because Lord Shiva is showing what is Vairagya. He wants to show to the devotees that don't be bothered with material aspects, material enjoyment. No. Remember the nature of this material world. So he'll say that in the further verses. It is coming. Text 27. Yasyana vadya charitam manishino krinantya vidya patalam bibhitsava nirasta samya tishayopi yat swayam pishacha charya macharad gati satam.
Although no one is, sorry, although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle the mass of nescience, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord.
Yes. So what about the appearance of Lord Shiva then? Why does he stay like that? Digambar, and always surrounded by ghosts and hobgoblins like that, smearing the dust bhasma all over his body. If Diti were to ask this, so what is this character of Lord Shiva? So he's telling by this verse, he's answering her. He's saying you don't know who Lord Shiva is. Let me tell you that Lord Shiva is Yasyana Vadya Charitam Manishino. Even the great personalities, great sages, they glorify his character with a desire to avidya patalam bibhitsava. In order to dismantle, Prabhupada says, in order to dismantle the mass of nations, very beautiful translation, like that. In order to finish the disease of avidya, avidya patalam, literally patala means on your eyes, parda aa jata hai ki nahi? Like that. So that is called as patalam. It's a disease. So avidya patalam means one's eyes are covered by that disease of avidya. One is not able to see anything. One is able to only see body and sense enjoyment and all that. So to destroy such avidya patal, such disease of avidya, great souls also, they glorify Lord Shiva's character. He is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Nirasta Samyati Shayopi Yat Swayam. And although he doesn't have anybody who is dear to him or anybody whom he hates like that, but still Pishacha Charyam, still he has accepted the ghosts and hobgoblins, pretas, bhutas, pishachas as his associate. Why? In order to deliver them. So that is Lord Shiva. Pishacha Charyam Acharat Satam Gatihi. So although he's like that, he is actually destination of the devotees. He is somebody who is desired by the devotees. Devotees, Vaishnavas glorify him. Satam Gatihi. So just to elevate those personalities, he has accepted that service, So, but otherwise he's not at all affected by such appearance and everything else like that. So that is Lord Shiva's glory. He will say that in two, three more verses. Prabhupada says in purport, Lord Shiva's uncivilized devilish characteristics are never abominable because he teaches the sincere devotees of the Lord how to practice detachment from material enjoyment. So by putting that bhasma on the body, he shows this is what is going to be the destination of body. Bhasmi bhut. ये भस्म क्यों लगाते हैं? दिखाते हैं ये भस्म बनने वाला है शरीर, याद रखो, इसलिए remember Krishna. Like that, so with that purpose. Why he doesn't wear opulent clothing and all that? Yes, because he always wants to remember this point that, see, two things Vishwanath Chakravarti says. One is that he remembers anything, he sees anything, then he sees best of clothes, best of resources, best of men, best of women, best of everyone. He sees that this should be for my Lord's service, so I will not accept it. And then he puts like this bhasma and all such things. So that is said to be by Vishwanath Chakravarti that in order to show the nature of this body, that this is what it will end in. So that's why one should be always, remembering the Supreme Lord. So this is why he behaves in that particular fashion. But the foolish people, they don't understand this and they laugh at him. That he says in the next verse. Hasanti yasya charitam hi durbhaga swatman nritasya vidusha samihitam yair vastramalya bharananulepanai shvabhojanam swatmatayo palalitam.
Unfortunate foolish persons, not knowing that he is engaged in his own self, laugh at him. Such foolish persons engage in maintaining the body, which is eatable by dogs, with dresses, ornaments, garlands, and ointments.
Yes. So those who are durbhaga, those who are unfortunate, hasanti, they laugh at Lord Shiva. Arey kya hai? He's Digambar. He's having all bhasma on his body. Dekho iske associates and all. But they don't know swatman ratasya, swatmani ratasya, one who is always within his heart remembering the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. Swatmani Paramatmani, here. So he's Atmarath hai wo hamesha, Bhagwan ke smaran mein hai wo, like that. But those who are avidusha, those who are not learned, they hasanti, they laugh at him. They don't understand why he does, such things, his activities. So samihitam, loka shiksha rupam, Sridhar Swami says. उनका समझते नहीं है वो प्रयोजन क्या है, वो तो लोक शिक्षा दे रहे हैं, अरे भाई भस्म क्यों लगा रहा हूं मैं, तुम्हारा शरीर भस्म बनने वाला है. So this lok shiksha, that's why he is behaving like that. They don't understand, the unfortunate, not learned, foolish people, and they laugh at Lord Shiva and they think that, oh, this is tamogun or like that. But while not understanding that this is the nature of our body, it will turn into ashes, what they do instead? They decorate their body by vastra, malya, bharan, anulepan. Not getting Lord Shiva's point that body will be ashes, that they don't get only. Instead, they decorate their body with the beautiful, vastras, alankaras and all that. And they decorate their body to make sure that finally it becomes shvabhojanam. It becomes the dead body which will be eaten by jackals and dogs and, all of them like that. So how unfortunate it is that they don't understand Lord Shiva and instead they waste their life, in decorating this body and people who are generated from this body. Swatmatayo palalitam. In this way, they waste their time. So this is the problem. Yes, Swatmana, Swatmani or Shri Krishna Ratasya. So this is where Vishwanath Chakravarti says that one meaning is that these people, personalities, meaning materialists, they take all these items and they want to worship, decorate themselves. But when Lord Shiva sees it, he sees it as this is for Lord service. All this beautiful clothing, flowers, it should be offered to my Lord Sri Krishna. And it's not for me. So he doesn't accept it this way. So like that. So that is also the meaning here, which he is bringing. So his nature is actually of service only. He is always thinking what is there for Lord's service. So that's why he himself doesn't accept. That's Prabhupada says in purport, third line, there are two kinds of devotees of Lord Shiva. One class is the gross materialist, seeking only bodily comforts from Lord Shiva. And other class desires to become one with him. They are mostly impersonalists and prefer to chant Shivoham, right? Shivoham. Once Param Puja Srimad Radha Govind Swami Maharaj was telling in his one katha in Juhu, when he was saying katha, one man in the katha started always saying Shivoham, loudly he was saying Shivoham, like that. So then Maharaj tolerated for some time, but then in between only Shivoham, and then he would keep quiet and continue hearing. So Maharaj said that Shivji, aap bahut disturb kar rahe ho. He said, aap se bahut disturb ho raha hai Shivji. Please, like that. So he said, you understand what is Shivoham? Why you say like that? No, he said, This is a like famous statement. So I say just like that, Shivoham. He didn't even understand. So Maharaj said, it's not Shivoham, it is Jivoham. You know, I am Jiva, I am not Shiva, like that. And then he said he was just grossly ignorant. He didn't even know what he is saying. People say, Aham Brahmasmi. Usko samajhta nahi kya arth hai uska. He just says, Soham. Kya hai Soham? That he doesn't understand. So it's like that. So Shivoham, they will say. Prabhupada says. So, but of course, these are the some of the impersonalists. Panchopasana, they have this ideology that they worship Shiva and they think that finally they will merge with Shiva. So these are impersonalists, these people. So in this way, either karmis or jnanis are generally devotees of Lord Shiva, Prabhupada says. But they do not properly understand his real purpose in life. So they are also put into the category of avidushaha in this way. Finally, Prabhupada says, Lord Shiva desires that all luxurious articles such as nice garments, garlands, ornaments, and cosmetics be given to Lord Krishna only. So you see that another meaning of Lord Vishwanath Chakravarti, he's putting that. Because Krishna is the real enjoyer. Lord Shiva refuses to accept such luxurious items himself because they are meant only for Krishna. In this way, that is the consciousness of Lord Shiva, because of which he doesn't accept this thing. Okay, last verse in Shiva's glorification. Text 29. Brahma dayo yat kritase tupala yat karanam vishwamidam chamaya Ajna kari yasya pishacha charya aho vibhum nascharitam vidambanam.
Demigods like Brahma are also follow the religious rites observed by him. He is the controller of the material energy which causes the creation of the material world. He is great and therefore his devilish characteristics are simply imitation.
So that's why we are nothing in comparison to Lord Shiva. We just are his servants and his activities are inconceivable. So we cannot offend this great personality. He says, Brahma dayo yat krita setu pala. Forget about me. Even Brahma and all, they follow the rules set forth by him. They also follow the maryada of Lord Shiva. He is so great. Yat krita setu pala. Jinke dwara banaya gaya setu ko Brahma bhi palan karte hain. Yat karanam vishwam idam cha maya. And he is the cause of this universe. He is being glorified as Gunavatar. Okay, clearly. Srila Jiva Goswami says that he is being glorified as Gunavatar. So his aikya with the Vishnu is seen, and that is how he is being glorified. Otherwise, it should all be for Vishnu. Yat karanam vishwamidam, one who causes this universe, Maya cha adnyakari, and Maya is his servant. Or you can take it in a fashion that, yes, he's talking about Durga. Mahamaya is his servant, while Yogamaya is Lord's personal energy, that way. Yasya pishacha charya aho vibhubnash charitam vidambanam. And then he has such inconceivable activities like taking pishachas and all of them, so that at least they worship him and get elevated. But it is all vidambanam. It is simply something which is not understood very clearly. It is vidambanam, means Prabhupada translates as simply imitation. It is nakal, wo jo hai wo nahi hai. That is called as vidambanam. Jo dikhta hai wo nahi hai wo. That is vidambanam. Vidambanam has 10 meanings, different meanings. Vidambanam in different context. Vidambanam is understood in differently, like that. So this is how vibhumna charitam vidambanam. It's a simply imitation. It's actually very different. He's imitating like some worldly ignorant people, but it is not what it is. He is fully transcendental personality beyond that appearance which is there. So that is vidambanam. So in purport, Prabhupada says, last line, Lord Shiva means he says, he is very great and his renunciation of all material enjoyment is an ideal example of how one should be materially unattached. One should therefore follow in his footsteps and be unattached to matter, not imitate his uncommon acts like drinking poison. So point is, we take the inspiration from Lord Shiva in terms of his vairagya, his indifference towards the material enjoyment, not being attached to the matter. Not that we imitate his activities like drinking poison or being Digambar or, being taking ghosts and hobgoblins somehow. So this particular aspect is not there, is not spoken to be imitated, but we take the right inspiration that how he is materially unattached. But these people, those who are so-called followers of Shiva, they want to imitate him, just as he drank the Kalakut, they say we also will drink these poisonous substances or intoxicating substances. But that is bogus, right? So that is the point. So that Yat Krita Setu Pala, Vishwanath Jiva Goswami says, also has the aspect that he's telling to her in conclusion that, so that's why this Muhurta belongs to Rudra, and this Muhurta ordains that we should not eat, we should not sleep, or we should not have act of procreation in this Muhurta, and we should follow it. It is not correct to transgress this like that. Otherwise, we will be reprimanded by Lord Shiva very much for this. So he's saying and warning her, but to no avail. Text 30. Maitreya uvacha saivam samvidite bhartra manmathon mathitendriya jagraha vaso brahmarshe vrishaliva gatatrapa. Yes.
Maitreya said, Diti was thus informed by her husband, but she was pressed by Cupid for sexual satisfaction. She caught hold of the clothing of the great Brahman sage, just like a shameless public prostitute.
So although her husband spoke to her these words, but to no avail, because Manmath ne unke indriyon ko unmathit kar diya tha. Manmath is Cupid. So he had churned her senses. So because of it, she couldn't tolerate that urge. And she, like a Vrishali, it is said, Prabhupada's right, strong words here, like a public prostitute, giving all shame, she just caught hold of clothing of Kashyapa. So Prabhupada says this is not a behavior of a chaste wife. This is a behavior which resembles or suits to a prostitute, like that. So this is the strong force of material energy, and Kashyapa couldn't stop her from doing this. So he was also swayed by this particular situation, although he was very enlightened in this way. So Prabhupada, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he composes a verse and quotes it. He says that Kamo vivekam grasati swiyam annaischa darshitam atra pramanam brahmaiva pumsah strishu uchyate diti. कामो विवेकम ग्रसति, काम विवेक को सारा निगल लेता है. काम से विवेक खत्म हो जाता है. Discrimination is destroyed by kama. One's own discrimination and other person's discrimination also. One who is lusty, he also loses all discrimination and he sways away the front person also. And whole, both of their consciousness, all vivek is finished. And he says, what is the praman? Atra pramanam brahmaiva pumsa. Purusho mein iska praman hai brahma. Strishu uchyate diti, or stri mein hai diti. Like that he says. That's the point of this particular episode, that way. So Brahma in the Vak episode, Diti in the Hiranyaksh, Hiranyakashipu, this particular episode, like that. Text 31. Saviditvatha bharyaya stam nirbandham vikarmani natva dishtaya rahasi tayathopa viveshahi.
Understanding his wife's purpose, he was obliged to perform the forbidden act. And thus, after offering his obeisances unto worshipable fate, he lay with her in a secluded place.
So he understood his bharya's nirbandha, she was determined for this forbidden act, and he just understood it is impossible for him to now stop this activity. So he just offered his obeisances to Dishta, to Providence, and then they engaged in union. Prabhupada says in purport something interesting. He says, it appears from the talks of Kashyapa with his wife that he was a worshipper of Lord Shiva. And although he knew that Lord Shiva would not be pleased with him for such a forbidden act, he was obliged to act for his wife's desire. And thus he offered his obeisances unto fate. He knew that the child born of such untimely sexual intercourse would certainly not be a good child. But Kashyap could not protect himself because he was too obligated with his wife. So he's bringing up that point. In similar case, however, when Thakur Haridas was tempted by a public prostitute in the dead of night, he avoided the allurement because of his perfection in Krishna consciousness. That is the difference between a Krishna conscious person and others. Kashyap Muni was greatly learned and enlightened, and he knew all the rules and regulations of systematic life. Yet he failed to protect himself from the attack of sex desire. So this is the point. Prabhupada brings up this comparison also between Kashyap and Haridas. While Haridas is a pure devotee, although Kashyap being very enlightened, but then still he was, in this case, swayed. He was swept away by his wife's desire in this fashion. So that's why those who take the shelter of pure devotional service and Vaishnavas and Supreme Lord's mercy, then they are able to control the senses. They are able to get saved from the swayings of Maya in this fashion, like that. So although, of course, Kashyap is quite a great personality, but in this particular episode, that aspect is exemplified over here. Same Kashyap later becomes even father of Vamandev, isn't it? Lord's incarnation appears to his wife, another wife, Aditi. But at this particular point and in this particular scenario, this vulnerability of Kashyapa is spoken by all the acharyas, including Prabhupada himself, like that. Okay, text 32. Athopasprisya salilam prananayamya vagyata dhyayan jajapa virajam brahmajoti sanatanam.
Therefore, Brahmana took his bath. Thereafter, Brahmana took his bath in the water and controlled his speech by practicing trance, meditating on the eternal effulgence and chanting the holy Gayatri hymns within his mouth.
Yeah, so after the act of procreation was done, then he took a bath, upasprishya shailam, salilam. He took a bath and then practicing pranayam, asana and pranayam, controlling his speech. He just chanted the Gayatri. Dhyayan jajapa virajam brahma. He meditated on the Brahma and he chanted Gayatri and Omkar. So it is said he virajam brahma dhyayan. He meditated on the Brahma Jyoti. So Prabhupada says here that second para, Kashyapa Muni appears to be an impersonalist. When we compare with his character with that of Haridas Thakur, as referred to above, it is clear that the personalist is stronger in sense control than the impersonalist. That's how it should be, like that. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita as param drishtva nivartate. A very nice commentary is there on param drishtva nivartate. One of the acharyas, I think maybe Ramanujacharya or someone has commented that Krishna used the word param drishtva by seeing the param nivartate, that he gives up the attachment, or rather he stays away from sense objects, right? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. First he says that Vishaya vinivartante, one may stay away from the sense object, niraharasya, because he is nirahar, he is not accepting any sense object, but rasopyasya, rasavarjam rasopyasya, but rasa remains, the taste for sense object remains. Although the sense object may not be there, but the taste for sense object remains. But param drishtva nivartate, param ko dekh ke to ras bhi chala jata hai. Even that ras goes away. Pehle to vishaya gaye the, now even the rasa goes away. So that drishtva is there just by seeing. So if we even see the glory of this path in terms of what it is going to award, what it is going to offer, the great shelter of Krishna and his devotees, if we see that glory, and by that positive inspiration also one will be able to say no to the senses. Param drishtva. Not even, there is no, there the talk is not like, by taking the experience Of course, surely, higher taste, one has to have the experience, then one is able to give up the lower taste. That is exactly, that is how it is. But that drishtva is in the sense that one may experience some higher taste and some he may see in the future. It is there for us in store. So looking at that, one wants to go ahead faithfully. It's not that we may be able to at our level experience the love of Godhead, but we see it is there. We have experienced something and we see that a lot is in store to experience. So with that, param drishtva, one stays away from the sense object, nivartate. Of course, the other aspect of engaging oneself in a substantial service to Krishna, that is obviously there. Senses and mind, if we have something substantial for which we are working in life, then you can say no to the senses, right? Otherwise, if we don't have anything substantial to work for in our life, then we will be swept away by mind and senses. Like that. So we have to stand for something in life. That service of Krishna and devotees, whatever service it is, all different services in Krishna's service. But when we stand for it and we see that, oh, so much is at stake if I give in to mind and senses. I can't put so much on stake, so many things, such a glorious opportunity, I am putting it on stake if I give in to mind and senses. Then that person will be able to control and still go along. No? So that is the point, that we need that nourishing engagement, substantial, responsible engagement that is also keeping us absorbed in that service like that. So absorbing engagement is very much needed actually. Otherwise, our mind and senses will drive us, to the sinful life, to that which is not desired, something which is undesirable. That is the point. So here, in this way, after this act was done, he understood that forbidden action was done, and then he was meditating on Brahma and chanted Gayatri like that. So just two more verses and we will stop. Text 33. Ditistu vridita tena karmavadyena bharata upasangamya viprarshim adomukhyabhya bhashata.
O son of Bharata family, Diti, after this, went nearer to her husband, her face lowered because of her faulty action. She spoke as follows.
Yeah. So in the rage of the senses, one doesn't understand the mistake. But once, that crescendo apex of, rage of the senses is over, then one understands, oh, what a mistake I have done. It is such a ghastly mistake. So same happened with Diti also. She was extremely ashamed after this act. Karma vadyena, ye avadya karma kar diya tha unhone. Ye doshpurna karma. So she went to Viprarshi Kashyapa and she was with her face lowered, she spoke to him these things. Prabhupada says, when one is ashamed of an abominable action, one naturally becomes down-faced. So that's what happened to Diti. So 3 verses she will say this. She will quote, she will say her guilt in this. Diti ruvacha name garbhamimam brahman bhutanam rishabho vadit rudraha patirhi bhutanam yasya karavam amhasam.
The beautiful Diti said, "My dear Brahmana, kindly see that my embryo is not killed by Lord Shiva, the Lord of all living entities, because of the great offense I have committed against him."
Yeah, so she phrased that, please, Kashyapa, please you see to it that Lord Shiva, who is offended, he doesn't finish off this embryo, he doesn't finish off my garbha. He says that. Prabhupada says in purport, Diti was conscious of her offense and was anxious to be excused by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Rudra, but he's also Ashutosh. He gets quickly angry and he gets also quickly pleased. So she wanted Kashyapa to arrange that Lord Shiva is not displeased with her and doesn't destroy her womb. 35. Namo Rudraya Mahate Deva Yograya Midhushe Shivaya Nyastadandaya Dhritadandaya Manyave.
Let me offer my obeisances unto the angry Lord Shiva, who is simultaneously the very ferocious great demigod and the fulfiller of all material desires. He is all auspicious and forgiving, but his anger can immediately move him to chastise.
Yeah. So she's saying Lord Shiva has both the aspects. May he bless me with the positive aspects. He is Rudra also, but then he is great Lord. So he will forgive. He is Ugra, but at the same time he bestows all the benedictions also. And he is Nyasta Danda and Dhrita Danda. He will punish, but he is also very having Nyasta Danda, one who has given up the Danda. He is also has the nature of forgiving. So may he forgive me. She's praying. Last verse. Sanah prasidatam bhamo bhagavanurvanugrahah vyadhasyapyanukampyanam strinam deva satipati.
Let him be pleased with us, since he is my brother-in-law, the husband of my sister Sati. He is also the worshipable Lord of all women. He is the personality of all opulences and can show mercy towards women who are excused even by the uncivilized hunters.
So yes, so because he's husband of my sister Sati, so may he bestow his anugraha on me. Because a stree, a woman, has to be dealt with compassion, even though she is like very fallen, or even though in any condition, basically vyadhasya, एक व्याध भी स्त्री पर अनुकंपा करेगा, फिर शिवा का तो क्या क्या है, like that she is saying. So please let him, may he be pleased, rather may he be not displeased, and may he protect me in this situation. Shiva is naturally kind to the women. Women pray to him for getting good husband. So may he be merciful to me also. Okay, we'll stop here. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hari Om. So one question. This Vrushali is public prostitute. If Mataji's name is Vrushali, that Vrushali is same or different?
Vrishali is Bhavani.
Oh, Vrushali is Bhavani.
Yeah, Lord Shiva's wife is
So that
Vrishali.
is the origins of the two words are altogether different. Or then nothing like origin.
There is Vrusha. I mean, Lord Shiva gets connected to Vrusha, one who has, Vrusha, that the Nandi as his, one who is master of Nandi, like that. But whether in Vrishali, that same thing is there, I have to see. But Vrishali is Bhavani. That meaning is there.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.